Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey, you are listening to the Seattle Shrimp Tank streaming live to you on Facebook. You can catch us every other week on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio here on Facebook until we resume broadcasting in our physical studio. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host, Dan Whedon. You can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle, and now through iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes so you never miss an episode. And if you are subscribed, please rate us and our podcast because your feedback helps us grow and improve. Our guest for today's podcast is Carly Tizzano with Masterpeace, and I love how you spell that, Organizing. Welcome, Carly.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Dan,
hello,
here we
Carly.
are.
We'll be right with you, Carly. Brad and I have to wax poetic for a few minutes here.
So speaking of back into our virtual studio,
yeah,
I had business down in Tacoma today.
Okay.
I'm not actually sitting in our physical studio, although I guess I could have done that. Maybe I should have, and then
that would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, this kind of background thing. So at any rate, I am nearby. I'm just a couple of offices over from our studios, but a little bit different. I'm on the road, so to speak.
You're on the road. Well, you know what? That's one of the beauties of what we're doing right now is we can do this from anywhere. And as much as I told Carly, as much as we wanted to have her come to the studio, we'll have her over at some other time and do something again. But at least for right now, the show goes on and we're having fun with that. And listen, really briefly before we bring in Carly, she made me think of what we're going to do in our little first opening act. And, you know, I met Carly, so this is going to be a dual thing. How I met Carly years ago. Now I know Carly is young still. She is a young entrepreneur, but I knew her when she was just a kid because her dad, Richard, and I had been in Rotary for the last, 15 years together. So I think I knew Carly when she was probably still in grade school at some point when she came with her dad. And then I got to know her even better when I was helping to coach her and advise her in a group of students on public speaking. And I have to tell you, I hope I'm not going to embarrass Carly, but she was a pro as a high school aged student. She was fantastic. And a lot of the kids really were. In fact, she and one other student are already entrepreneurs. And I think there's a direct correlation, Brad. There's a direct correlation between learning the skill. It's one thing to be unafraid to talk and not to be able to say anything worthwhile, right?
Right.
It's another to have the confidence to speak, not only clearly and effectively, but to be able to get your point across, to be able to be influential. And you're going to hear Carly today. She's better than you and me combined, probably. But I just thought about the importance, and even more so, Brad, and I want your comment on this, in a virtual world, you might have to actually even be a little bit better in a virtual world just like this to be able to be influential and to be somebody of interest. Would you agree?
I would agree. In fact, it reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, yes.
Right? John
Yes.
Candy, Steve Martin. And Steve Martin, is going through, you're like a chatty Cathy doll. And it goes, oh, and here's one more thing. When you're telling your stories, have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
That's a classic. That is a classic movie. I love that movie.
Right.
It should be more than just for
Thanksgiving. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But like I said, I just think that in the world we live in now, in the business world, which
yes.
I don't care what happens over the course of the next 6 months, this is here to stay.
Yep.
And I think you have to even be a little bit better. And I think it's now time to learn a little bit more about Carly, so we can start having her talk more than us. I told you how I got to meet Carly years ago and how I've kind of seen her grow up. Tell everybody else a little bit about Carly Tizzano.
Yeah, you bet. Carly Tizzano is the owner of Masterpeace Organizing, and I'm sure we're going to get to the kind of the concept of that, because Masterpeace is spelled P-E-A-C-E, and it's based in the Pacific Northwest. Masterpeace Organizing is a full-service organizing company offering in-home organizing, personal assistant services, virtual organizing, and coaching. She and her team help clients to simplify and organize their lives, creating more space and time for them to live the life they want. And boy, living your ideal life is something that I'm all about. Carly also runs a blog, carlytizzano.com, where she shares about her personal development journey. Carly, welcome to the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Hey, Carly, you're in your early 20s, and I've known a lot of people in their early 20s. Heck, some time ago, I was in my early 20s, and I'm not sure anybody I've ever met until you was capable of opening up an organizing business, because most 20-somethings, that's a challenge for them. What got you even interested in this, and how did you start the business?
Well, I think my organizing journey started kind of different from a lot of other organizers. I wouldn't say that I was always the most organized kid growing up. It wasn't until I was in high school, probably about the era you knew me from coaching our speech and debate club, that I kind of started to figure out who I wanted to be in life, and that being organized and getting my work done and knowing where everything belonged was kind of big pieces to help me get to where I wanted to be. And then as I was entering my senior year of college, I was still kind of unsure about what I was going to do after I graduated. And then I came across an article about the top home organizers you needed to follow on Instagram. So I was totally unfamiliar with the term, but I did a bunch of digging on Instagram and came across those accounts and a bunch of others. And I just began to realize that people would pay you to come in and organize their home. And looking at my closet, that was something that I could do, and it sounded like a great idea, and I didn't want to do anything else. So I finished up college, and then I just kind of dove right in, and I joined this mastermind program specifically to help home organizers launch their business, and I just never really looked back.
So Carly, tell me about virtual organizing, because that seems really intriguing to me, because this whole concept of, virtual anything has really taken on a life of its own over the last 90 days. How long have you been doing that, and exactly what does that mean?
Well, it's something we've offered from the beginning, but I will say it's not something that's really kind of taken off until the last couple months with COVID-19 and everything going on with that. It's a lot of the same process. We still do a consultation at the beginning to kind of determine what a client's goals are, what they want to accomplish, kind of how what we're going to do can help them create more space and time for the life that they want. And then the difference is, instead of showing up with all of our tools and doing it all for them or working with them to get it done, we just show up on Zoom and still walk them through the process, help them make the decisions, still kind of tell them where stuff should go, and still tell them what products they probably need to get to make everything work and last. So it's a lot of the same process. It's just not hands-on, and I can do it in my pajama bottoms.
So listen, I want to talk a little bit more about what COVID-19, what the effects of that had on your business, and you kind of point to that a little bit. But I have to ask you this question. As a young entrepreneur, you're probably, a lot of your clients are twice your age, or maybe even 3 times your age. Do you ever run into any challenges just for them kind of saying, how do you know what you're talking about, or being able to relate to them? And so I just wonder, has that age gap been an impediment in any way for you?
I don't think so, or I guess if it has, I kind of choose not to see it that way. I think that there's a lot of stuff in life I haven't experienced. I haven't had kids, and my parents are still active, so I haven't had to take care of aging parents. And it's kind of in situations like that where a lot of our clients will come to us because they just can't keep operating how they are. They have those kids and those aging parents, so they just can't manage that and their house and all the things that they have going on. So while I don't have experience with that, I did grow up with siblings that were quite a bit younger than me. So I know what that's like, and I kind of followed in the footsteps of my mom. And my dad is an elder law and estate planning attorney, so I've kind of seen how he's dealt with those situations and always kind of heard those stories. So I think I kind of, even if I don't have a wide range of experience, I have a pretty wide base of knowledge that I can pull from to help clients no matter what their situation is. And there have been times when people are kind of surprised at how young I am, but it has never, at least to my knowledge, stopped someone from wanting to work with me or wanting to get the help that they need, because if anyone can provide that to them, then why can't I?
Sure, absolutely. So let me ask you, Brad, if you don't mind,
Go
I
ahead.
do touch on the COVID, because obviously yours was a very hands-on business. I mean, you're set up to walk into people's homes and to check. It's probably, I feel like you could probably do a TV, one of the reality TV things probably. But COVID-19 stopped that in its track, but it didn't stop you. Talk about when this first started and, you know, kind of how you kicked into gear, keeping your business rolling in this.
Well, the first step was kind of it just kind of came up so suddenly. Everything was pretty normal, and we had clients booked out kind of to the end of March, and a week or two before that, we were like, this probably isn't going to happen. So we just talked to each of the clients and decided if it was something where they wanted to put their project on hold, and we would resume it about now that things are kind of slowing down and opening up, still with a lot of precautions, of course. And then there were people who wanted to keep going and decided to do virtual organizing instead, because they just really need the accountability and the guidance to get it done, and maybe less of the hands-on help. I have a client during quarantine, we've been going through all of her photos. And so that's something that, whereas I could come in and help, it's still something where she needs to go through all of those photos and decide which ones she wants and put them in chronological order. And unless they have a date on the back, that's something that I wouldn't be a lot of help in. But she really just needs those 2 hours twice a week to sit down for us to knock that out. And we've gone through tubs and tubs of photos, and it just shows where a little bit of persistence can get a lot done, even over a short amount of time. And it's worked out really well for a lot of my clients. So I think some of them will want to stick with that, and others are excited to have us come back and help them in person. And then of course we had projects we were planning on that we just decided to wait and start until we can go in and kind of tackle it all at once. But I think we just kind of figured it out as we needed to, and I don't see this kind of going away completely anytime soon, like you said. So it's just going to be a continuing process of figuring it out and deciding what to do next, and reading the news, and just trying to keep everyone safe and healthy and their homes organized.
So Carly, the question that I've got with regard to this, of course, is, if you look at Home Depot, Lowe's, they were open for critical. I guess they consider maintaining one's home, right, is an important business, and a lot of people have done a lot of home projects. And I would imagine, have you seen an increased interest in individuals taking this time? Many of people working from home, being at home, they're no longer commuting, to organize their space.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of all across the board, no matter what it is they needed to tackle, really kind of having that increased interest, and luckily the increased time to get it done. So there's kind of two camps of people. The camp of people who knew they could do it, they just didn't have the time. So those people might be looking for resources and tips and advice, but they're less likely to become clients. And I write blog posts and Instagram posts and videos and try to help people like that out that way to still provide some value and direction. And then there are the people who want to get it done, and especially now know they need to get it done because they don't want to be trapped in a house that looks like this for 3 months. And so those are the people that it's really been a joy to help, and to help them enjoy being home. And even if ultimately this isn't the life they want to live, it's the life they're living right now, and just helping them get the most out of that. And for most people, an organized home helps get them a lot of the way towards that.
Well, we're going to find out a heck of a lot more about that to help all of those unorganized people get more organized. We're going to take a quick break right now to hear from our sponsors. But when we come back with Carly Tizzano for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to find out what Carly thinks about binge cleaning. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more from the Seattle Shrimp Tank.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Brad Berger from Ideal Life 360. I'm going to do my own reading today. And I want to personally invite you to a special retreat called Transformation on the Water. That's going to be taking place on September 12th through 14th, 2020. This is an opportunity to have something to look forward to boost your health, wellness, and mindfulness for 3 days at the beautiful seaside Port Ludlow Resort. You deserve time to relax, personally reflect, and transform after everything that's been going on. We'll have some inspiring, life-changing workshops to look forward to, including guided centering and mindfulness exercise, a possibilities explosion workshop to open your mind and develop your own new long-term vision, understanding your personal values that drive you, creating a rapid life reset to take the next steps in your life with confidence, healthy nutrition to focus on you. We've got farm to table meals, as well as classes on nutrition and stress, creating new goals by future casting to propel you forward, and inspiring steps that you can live and take now to live a 100-year lifestyle. You'll also enjoy the included healthy farm to table meals, 3 meals a day, relax with daily yoga, meditation, kayaking, paddleboarding, and waterfall hiking. And there are additional add-on activities. This is for you, Dan, including golf, right? Gourmet cooking, classes, and massage. Our goal is to help you recharge your inner battery so you can achieve more than you ever thought possible on a timeline you never imagined. You can find out more information by visiting one of our shrimp peeler sponsors. It's www.portludlowresort.com/retreat. Bring a friend and discounts apply. So we'll see you on the water.
So what waterfall walking? That sounds a little dangerous, doesn't it? I mean, I can see just, waterfall walking.
Yes.
just a comment, but I'm sure everybody will survive that to do some farm to table to stomach eating, right?
Yes, it's hiking to the waterfalls.
I see. Okay.
Yes. So anyway, welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp Tank from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the Seattle and greater Puget Sound area. I'm Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host. Of course, I already told you I'm Brad Berger.
Yes, you did.
Dan Whedon. That's you. Remember, you can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, or catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. So for our next segment, Hot or Not.
And just if you're gonna take the time to rate us, just give us a 5. What do you say? So listen, Hot or Not is sponsored by our shrimp peelers, the aforementioned Port Ludlow Resort, West Sound Workforce, SJ Graphics, the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. What did I say? West Sound Workforce. I don't have my notes in front. I said West Sound Workforce. I got it twice. And the Kitsap Sun. Thank you to all of you for that. So Carly, this is how our game is played. Brad and I are going to pepper you with a few questions about business, about life, about cool stuff. You're going to tell us whether it's hot or not, and then why. And at the end, you win absolutely nothing, because if we gave you something, you might have to throw it out at some point down the line. So hot or not, binge cleaning. And that's as opposed to doing a little bit at a time. What do you think about binge cleaning?
I have to lean towards not hot.
Okay.
As much as I adore cleaning in all its forms, I'm definitely like the cleaner, not the cook, and that kind of continuum. And I know the benefits of getting everything clean. I definitely try to convey to my clients and try to live it out in my everyday life that cleaning as you go a little bit every day kind of can save you a lot of heartache and a lot of time and a lot of effort in the long run. When you see something is messy and you can just kind of wipe it up on the counter as you walk by to do something else, as opposed to then having to tackle a totally grease splattered stove at the end of the week. It just kind of makes everyone happier, and it's not that constant reminder and little tick in the back of your brain like, oh yeah, I still need to do that. And I see a lot of clients who, when they do go into that kind of binge cleaning, or I like to call it procrastinating, it's because they really have something else they need to do. And so that's kind of where I come in a lot of times on the coaching side to help them see that they're kind of using these other tactics to get out of doing the real time management or productivity and ultimately the actual project work that they need to do. And that's the time a lot of people will try to get organized, but since it's kind of that binge method, it doesn't often really work in the long run.
So before Brad asks, I mean, because I know that, and we talked about this with past guest Ryan Denny on the spring cleaning, kind of past generations had the big spring cleaning. We're gonna spend this weekend and we're gonna clean a year's worth, you know, every nook and cranny. So that kind of goes along the same lines. Is it's a lot better to kind of take that one bite of the elephant at a time as opposed to the whole thing in one meal, right?
Yeah, I mean, no one likes cleaning baseboards, but if you clean it when you notice they're dirty instead of maybe a year or 2 or 3 or 5 later, it helps a little bit.
Brad.
Well, hot or not, Sterilite brand containers.
I think hot. Most containers I do like, and we implement and use and recommend all kinds of containers and all kinds of organizing products. The key though is to do a lot of the organizing process before you start implementing. So you need to have sorted and decluttered and decide what you need to keep and decide where it's going to go, and then you figure out what containers need to work.
Excellent.
So I have another hot or not, and this kind of comes from a blog post that you did on sustainability, expanding sustainability into our personal care.
I think that's very hot. I think it's something that everyone needs to be kind of more conscious and aware of. It's something I decided to spend this year personally focused on my sustainability in kind of all areas of my life. And it's been a really fun personal project. And I think it's definitely something the world needs more of now, especially as we look forward to getting rid of stuff we don't need and maybe buying some things we do need. It's a really good perspective to kind of do both of those things from.
So for you, Carly, since you're doing that, how is that showing up for you, for individuals who may not quite grasp the concept? Maybe some examples of what you're doing or what other people could do.
Sure. Well, so I'm also kind of doing it on a personal level. So like, what does sustainable exercise look like for me? What does sustainable eating look like for me? What does sustainable relationships look like? And so I'm kind of trying to do that on one side. And I'm also trying to think about the environmental and ecological footprint on the other side. So it's something, unfortunately, that I have to admit, I didn't know that much about going into this year. I just knew that it was important. And so it's been kind of a mixed bag of realizing, wow, we do really, really horrible things. And wow, we really don't seem to care a lot of the time. And then unfortunately on the other side of, wow, there's kind of no clear thing to do. And so I'm actually in the process of writing a book about this, just kind of as I've been documenting my journey and my adventures and all the stuff I've learned, because I've just felt so lost at so many points. And so I'm kind of in the process of writing the book that I wish I had when I started this year.
Excellent.
So tell me, because I think when we hear sustainability, we do think about environment, and because that's certainly been on our minds. It's in the news. It's all over. But you just said sustainable fitness and sustainable relationships, and I'm intrigued. Could you let's just take fitness. What does sustainable fitness look like? Is that something of kind of, well, you know what? I asked you the question. I'm gonna let you answer it. What's sustainable fitness?
I think it's something that's different for everyone. And that's kind of what's so beautiful about it, because what's sustainable for my fitness and my body type and what I eat and how I live is probably different from how either of you would want to live. So I moved a couple months ago, and I just so happened to have moved by this really great 2-mile figure 8 trail. So I do that every single day, and sometimes I run more and sometimes I walk more. It's just kind of leaning into whatever I think my body wants and how much energy I have. And so that has been really sustainable for me. If it's raining, then I'll just put on like a workout video on my computer or something. But it's been finding that I really do want to do something every day to move my body, just whatever that ends up being for that day, depending on the weather and how I feel. And so for me, it's not doing 2-hour workouts 3 times a week. It's doing at least 30 minutes of exercise every day. And so some people prefer those really intense long workouts. That's just not something that I want to do. I don't feel as good when I do it. And so it's just been kind of an experimentation process, and I'm liking where I am right now, but I'm still kind of open to tweaking and seeing where I end up.
So I'll ask this, hot or not. Hanging on to collections of things that have been passed down to you.
not hot, unless you really like them. I see so many people who have gained boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff from their parents, whether they downsized or passed away. I have so many clients who just have so much stuff from their parents, and most of it they don't care about. I mean, there are those really important things like some photos or letters, love letters between your parents, or your dad's Purple Heart. Like, those are things that you want to save. Or even maybe your grandma's china that you really love. But a lot of times that stuff is just taking up space, and our clients don't care. I have some clients who've rented storage units that they haven't been in 4 or 5 years, and they just put everything there, and they don't even want to go through it because they know there's nothing there that really is going to impact their life, at least in a way that they would want it to.
So I have a follow-on question to that, because I get asked this question a lot from clients, right? They'll inherit a baseball card collection, right? Or they'll inherit a comic book collection, and of course, they don't know anything about it. And part of the issue is it's twofold. Number one, they don't want to spend time either researching what all of the comic books are worth, or what all of the baseball cards are worth, or stamp collections for that matter. But at the same token, what they don't want to do is go take it to a comic book shop or to a stamp collection shop, because there's a fear, right? And that fear is that they're going to get taken advantage of. And that $1 million stamp, right, or that $1 million baseball card is going to be in there, and they're going to get taken. What advice do you give clients who might be facing that kind of a predicament? Because I think that there's a coaching element of that, not just letting things go.
Yeah, there definitely is. And a large part of it is when you don't make the decision about what you want to do, that is your decision, and you end up having that stuff in a storage unit or in the back of your closet, and it's just taking up that space and mental energy you really don't want to devote to it. So I tell a lot of my clients, for lower ticket items, to just donate it or put it on Buy Nothing or give it to a friend who could use it, because it's really just not worth your time, effort, and energy to try and list those things and find someone who wants to buy it and communicate with them and ship it off. For those higher ticket items like baseball cards or stamps, if you think that there's a real significant value, I just encourage people to go and have it evaluated and maybe see a couple people if that's what they want to do. Depending on where you live, there is probably that option. But I just encourage them not to let needing to do that hold them back from doing something. They just need to decide, depending on what it is and what they want to do. It would look different for everyone, but decide.
Dan, can I ask one follow-up question?
Please, go ahead.
You just mentioned something I've never heard of, which is, what is Buy Nothing?
Buy Nothing, I'm not sure if it exists outside of Facebook, but at least on Facebook, there's kind of Buy Nothing groups made up of different communities. And so you can post something on there and everything's free. At least there's some that are like Buy Nothing and cheap, but Buy Nothing specifically, you just take a photo of something and then people in your local area will comment, and most people just kind of put it outside their front door, and whoever got it or they picked to get the item, they'll send their address to, and that person will just come by and pick it up and hopefully get good use out of it.
Okay.
So before we go to break, I have a question, and I actually just use myself as an example. Both my parents have passed, and I know that I have a lot of things, that especially where my dad, both my mom and my dad's, that has a sentimental value. So it's not necessarily, it's not a monetary thing, but there are also things I say, I don't want to get rid of that, because at some point that might actually mean something even more, not only to me, but maybe to my children and because it was something my dad got at his retirement from the Navy, or it was but we don't show them in the house. For those types of things, do you have any advice on how best to store those things that are sentimentally really important, but you're not showing them around the house?
Yeah, the first thing is just to make sure that they are the things that really are sentimental to you, right? To not just take everything you inherited and pack it away nicely and just leave it at that. Then once you do that, just kind of determining on where you're going to store it, whether it needs plastic bins or whether it needs to be inside of like a Ziploc bag inside of a plastic bin. And if it's something like a wedding dress, and making sure it's preserved properly, or any kind of military suit probably. So just kind of depending on the item, just take the extra steps to figure out what is going to make this last long term. Like silver, there's some pretty particular things you need to do to store silver properly if you want it to last and look good when you bring it out.
So that's the value of you probably, because if I'm talking to you, you could probably say, hey, this is obviously important. Here are some suggestions depending on where you're going to store it, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how to properly store silver, but I know that if I'm dealing with a client who is, I'll go home and research them and send them an email and be like, it looks like this is what we need to get, and let's order it and have it there for our session on Wednesday, and we'll deal with it and pack it up and it'll be safe.
Perfect. Well, you know what's safe is we're going to have our next break. And when we come back from that break, that sponsor break, with our guest, Carly Tizzano from Masterpeace, we're going to get into the spelling of that coming out, Masterpeace Organizing. We are going to find out a little bit more about hangers. Hangers. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Seattle Shrimp Tank. And now it's me. You see, we don't have Sue or Tiara here with us, and so I want to spend more time with Carly. So I'm going to be very, very brief about my commercial. As we are still, people don't sometimes might forget because the weather's nice. COVID-19 is still here. The virus is still here, and but many people are being able to go back to work. And in going back to work, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with our guest, our last guest. There are some requirements in place. There's some things that from a safety standpoint for your employees, for your customers, for your clients, and for yourself have to be done. One of the things that I do in my consulting practice is I help in that. I kind of feel maybe like I'm a little bit like Carly as she's helping people declutter. I'm helping people to make sure that they're coming back into a safe environment, that you're meeting all of your obligations, your requirements, and what you want to do. So if you want to talk about that, if you need a plan, if you need some help in strategizing, contact me, 360-271-1592, or dan@danwhedon.com. And let's talk about how returning to work post-COVID-19 or during it, how that should look and how we can make sure everybody's safe. So Brad, that's my commercial today.
That's awesome. And before I bring us back, right, I'm just going to give you a little teaser here. We needed to ask Carly if she has any hang-ups. That would have been, so as we come back in, right, maybe you can rephrase your question and turn it into hangers.
Let me put my glasses on and see what I can do as you speak.
So welcome back to the Seattle Shrimp Tank from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the Seattle and Greater Puget Sound area. I am Brad Berger, along with my esteemed co-host Dan Whedon, and you can always catch a replay of the podcast at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or catch us now on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. For our next segment, Plead the Fifth.
Plead the Fifth, Carly. And again, our shrimp peeler sponsors, thank you to Port Ludlow Resort, West Sound Workforce, SJ Graphics, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, and the Kitsap Sun. And by the way, Libro.fm also has a special deal. If you're an audiobook listener, they're sponsoring us and helping us. You get a discount for the first number of books you buy. So check out on our website how to do that. Carly, on Plead the Fifth, this means we're going to really ask you some tougher questions. Your dad's an attorney. He might know a little bit about some of these, but you only get to plead the fifth once. And after that, we can ask really hard questions, and we're going to force you to answer them. I'm going to call this now, do you have a hang-up with hangers? So, no, that's not really the question. That's the title. That's the headline. So you mention in your blog that you have a specific number of hangers and you only allow yourself to have as many items of clothing as fits the number of hangers you have. Share with us a time, Carly Tizzano, that you did not follow this rule.
Well, I did not follow the rule before I implemented the rule. I used to have a closet full of all my clothes on, you know, the hangers you get from Goodwill and the hangers you get from JCPenney and a random wood hanger that I have no idea where it came from. And as I kind of dove more into organizing and wanting to organize my life and recognizing kind of the steps necessary to do that, I came across the fact that nearly every organizer out there recommends kind of felty hangers, because it kind of holds onto the clothes so that they don't slip off, and they're super thin, so you can fit as much as you need to in your closet, but they still look really nice and cohesive. So I just got a couple sets of those, and so I haven't not followed through on that rule in the last couple years.
Do you
So
have,
I have a quick, follow, Brad.
Go for it.
Do you have any tips and suggestions on, clothes? And I'll just say, sometimes clothes, especially you get them out of the dryer and those can just become the hardest things to say, okay, where does this go? How do I do this correctly? Should it be hung? Should it be folded? Do you have any tips and techniques for people as to maximizing the storage and how they use their closets?
Yeah, so thin hangers is definitely one for everything that's hung. Sometimes for sweaters or something that might get a little stretched out, you want to hang them on kind of a thicker hanger, something more with shoulders that'll keep it from stretching. And then for stuff in drawers, I really recommend file folding. So you can Google that. It's also known to some people as kind of the KonMari method of folding. So instead of having everything stacked vertically, you kind of make them all stand up, and so you can see everything when you open your drawer. So you can do that with everything from socks to underwear to tights to shirts to pants. So that's how I have everything. And then when everything comes out of the dryer, I know where everything goes, and I even know which piece of clothing goes on which hanger because of where it is in the closet. And so putting away clothes after they come out of the dryer is pretty mindless, and I just fold it or hang it and it's done.
All right, Brad.
So I have two plead the fifth questions, and one
Okay.
is just playful, right? And then I want to ask you about how you spell your business name. But have you ever been inspired by the United Colors of Benetton?
No, I don't think so.
So again, this is my playful question. Dan, do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Zero.
So back in the 80s, right, there was a mall store that had shirts and sweaters that were very, very colorful. And they were very well known for how they folded and displayed all of their merchandise. Nothing was on hangers, right? Everything was just folded, and it was a very beautiful, inspiring store. So Dan, you've never seen one of those? Okay,
No.
so I'm clearly dating myself.
I'm your age, so apparently I missed this. I don't know how to.
Evidently you haven't spent any time at the mall back in those days, perhaps. I don't know. Or maybe you didn't have the privilege of having a Benetton in your mall.
Maybe I didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah. Very, very popular in the Northeast. Anyway, here is my plead the fifth question for you, Carly, and that is, have you ever had a client that could have been an episode of Buried Alive?
I have not. Normally, I try to ask enough questions up front to make sure we don't end up in a situation quite like that. And we also do the consultation to kind of gauge where people are at. Because a lot of times, the people who end up on shows like that or in situations like that, they really need a lot more help than just us coming in and redoing their closet and putting food away in their pantry and helping them to showing them how to do those things and showing them how to maintain those systems. They really need to kind of not even just kind of the coaching side, they need something even more than that to help them work through the blocks that get them in that situation to make sure that they don't end up there again when we're done with the work that we're doing.
Well, I think then, thank you. It's kind of a natural segue into when you named your company. I love how you spelt Masterpeace. So what was kind of the motivation or the inspiration behind that?
Well, I can take absolutely no credit for the name. It was my mom's idea. Had been talking and tossing around ideas for, it felt like months, as I was kind of starting to work on website and behind the scenes stuff. And she said that, and it just really resonated because the more I read and learn about organizing and decluttering and kind of the science behind it, it's so clear that our homes and where we live is such a reflection of kind of our inner mental state. And when you change one, a lot of times you're changing the other, no matter which way you're going. And so my goal really was to create a masterpiece for people within themselves and in their homes, and bring that sense of peace, PEACE, along with it. And so we just kind of combined it together and stuck organizing on the end so people knew what we were talking about. And here we are.
Excellent.
I did not get this in the hot or not, so I'm going to just turn into a plead the fifth. What are your thoughts on Marie Kondo?
I think she is really great. She really brought the organizing industry to light. A lot of people, and a lot of people don't know what organizing is or who professional organizers are, but she really kind of brought it into the limelight with her books, and then her Netflix series is how a lot of people came to realize that you can hire people to organize your house if it's not something you're good at or don't have the time or skills to do. So I'm really appreciative of her in that way. I certainly don't think that her method is the only way to organize. It works really well for a lot of people, and you can certainly go be certified in how to be a KonMari consultant. I know some people who are, and they do a great job with their clients. It's just not kind of the direction I decided to go with my practice. And there's definitely things I've learned from her that I tell to clients. And she just came out with another book that I just read, and I really like seeing kind of her career and how far it's taken her.
Hey, I have a quick question, and Brad, we're probably down to about the last 3 minutes, but because
Sure.
this time has just flown. But question: in your business, will you also look at offices? I know that homes can certainly get cluttered, but so can offices and businesses. Is that something that's part of your repertoire?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of the same stuff as far as just kind of getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be there in the first place, and then implementing systems so that whoever works in the office can maintain and make sure everything stays organized in the long run. It's just a lot of the same principles. So yeah, that's definitely something we offer as well. And as people kind of get back into business after COVID-19, I think we might be doing quite a bit more of that.
Okay.
So, Carly, we did ask about your opinion on binge organizing. So my plead the fifth is, what is your favorite binge watch?
Lately on TV, I've been watching all of Big Bang Theory. That's kind of been my lately one. I love that show. But the classic favorite is Friends. So my mom's never seen it. I'm making her watch it with me right now. They're both just really fun shows, kind of the distraction from thinking about work and running a business. And
all right, so I've got one more follow-up question then. So which character are you most like on Big Bang Theory?
who am I most like?
That's a great question, by the way. I love that. That's a
I feel
great
like my
question.
organizational tendencies put me very in the Sheldon camp.
Sheldon category.
I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Oh my God. You know what? I mean, I have one last one, and then
Yeah.
Brad, it's
Yeah, you
time
bet.
to clear the decks. But you are a very great speaker, and we've enjoyed talking with you. You must have had some really fine speech coaches over the course of that time. Who is your favorite?
Oh, Dan Whedon, absolutely. He taught me so much.
Oh my God.
I didn't see that one coming. It just
yeah.
it came. I think
All
I was might have been our only one, so I could have been
Yeah.
the worst too. But
Okay, well, we've got to cut this off. So, Carly, we want to thank you so much for coming on the program today. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you or learn more about Masterpeace Organizing, how can they get more information?
Just at masterpieceorganizing.com or at Masterpiece Organizing, pretty much on any social platform. And again, it's MASTERPEACE Organizing. And then I'm at Carly Tizzano everywhere and at carlytizzano.com.
That's awesome. So our next show.
hey,
from the
Brad,
virtual,
before you go, before
yeah,
you go on the
go
next
ahead.
show, this is one of the things that we have to do kind of in this world we live in now, especially once you sign off with your great sign off. I'm going to end our thing, and then we'll come back. We're going to do a video wrap up that everybody's going to watch too. So, Carly, I'm not being rude, but when we shut it down, everything's going to go blank. Now people know how the back working works. So that was it. I didn't tell her that beforehand. So now you get to go and do your final thing.
Not a problem. So our next show from the virtual Whedon Unleashed studio will be Wednesday, July 8th, 2020, where our guest will be Lisa Kemmerling with Clear Lines Fashion Consulting. Make sure you check out all the replays of shrinktankpodcast.com/Seattle and now on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And remember, to become a shark, we all start out as shrimps.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond, and a shrimp